The dark expanse of space stretched endlessly before the Zarathan fleet, a formation of sleek, jagged warships that shimmered with an unnatural green glow. Commander Tharok observed the stars with cold calculation. He had patrolled this sector countless times, but today, something unusual appeared on his sensors. "Sir," reported the lieutenant, a nervous Zarathan with too many eyes blinking in fear, "we have detected an unidentified warship. It is human." Tharok's mandibles clicked with interest. Humans. He had encountered them before at the edge of known space, and they had always been troublesome, but never a threat. Their fleets were small, their technology considered primitive. Yet something about this signal made him uneasy. "Bring it up on the screen," Tharok ordered. The image of the human warship appeared, gliding silently across the void. Unlike Zarathan vessels, it was smooth, elegant, almost minimalist in design. Its surface reflected starlight like polished obsidian, yet there were no visible weapons, no turrets, no shields, or at least none that their scans could detect. "Sir," the lieutenant said again, hesitating, "its energy readings. They are abnormal. This ship shouldn't exist." Tharok's multiple eyes narrowed. "Abnormal in what way?" "The energy signatures. They are unpredictable. They fluctuate across spectrums we cannot trace. It's as if the ship itself is alive but not organic. And there are ghost readings. Systems that should not be here." Tharok leaned closer. "Scan deeper. I want to know everything about this ship." The Zarathan fleet moved cautiously. They activated full-spectrum scans, sending invisible waves across the human vessel. For the first time, Tharok felt something he had never experienced: doubt. The readings returned anomalies he could not explain. Systems that should not exist were functioning perfectly. Energy outputs exceeded their calculations. And there was a subtle intelligence in the patterns, as if the ship was aware it was being observed. Inside the human warship, Captain Alara Vance sipped her tea calmly, her eyes on the glowing console. The sensors had just alerted her. An alien fleet had locked onto them and was scanning their ship. Alara smiled faintly. "Finally," she said, leaning back in her chair. "They're curious. Let them see what they think they see." Her crew looked at her, confused. "Captain, should we go to battle stations?" asked Lieutenant Harris. "Not yet," Alara replied. "Let them poke around. Let them think they understand us. They won't." The alien scans continued. From the perspective of the Zarathan, it seemed as if the human ship was humming with impossible power, emitting frequencies that could disrupt even the most advanced war technologies. Their scanners tried to read the ship's internal layout, its energy sources, its weaponry, but every attempt failed. "Sir," the lieutenant said again, voice trembling, I believe it has weapons we cannot even imagine. And not just weapons, it could destroy us all." Tharok's mandibles clicked nervously. He had been a commander for decades, and yet the fear creeping through him was unlike anything he had ever felt. He had faced rogue suns, collapsing planets, and marauding fleets, and none had caused this level of uncertainty. "Prepare for combat," he ordered finally, though a part of him hesitated. Better to strike first than wait for the impossible. Inside the human ship, Alara laughed softly, a sound that made her crew glance at her with suspicion. "They don't understand yet," she said. "Let's give them a little taste." At her command, the ship's sensors began to subtly alter the energy signatures, creating false images of weapons and defenses. The humans had engineered this decades ago, a simple trick to confuse any aggressive alien race. The Zarathan interpreted it as a fleet-destroying armament, ready to obliterate their ships in seconds. On the bridge of the flagship, Tharok observed the display. Energy spikes appeared across his fleet's sensors, showing imaginary torpedoes, plasma cannons, and fields of unstable energy. Panic rippled through his officers. "Commander," said Lieutenant Khazar, eyes wide, "we cannot survive this. Even one shot from that ship—" "I know," Tharok interrupted. "But we cannot retreat. If we pull back now, it will be seen as fear. And fear among the Zarathan is weakness." He activated the fleet's long-range cannons. Streams of green plasma arced through space, heading toward the human ship. Yet as they approached, something strange happened. The beams dispersed harmlessly, splitting into countless smaller beams that fizzled out before impact. The human ship had anticipated this, and at that moment, stealth drones erupted from hidden launch bays. They swarmed like metallic fireflies, attaching themselves to the alien vessels. Tiny, precise, almost invisible, they began to disable the alien engines and weapon systems. Wait, this is impossible, Khazar whispered. They're attacking us, but with such precision. Yes, Tharok said, his mandibles trembling. They are humans, and they are not what we expected. Inside the human ship, Captain Alara watched the destruction with calm amusement. Every time the same reaction, she said. They assume we are predictable. They assume fear will make us small. They forget. Humans adapt fast, and humans innovate faster. The Zarathan fleet scrambled, firing at the drones, trying to defend themselves, but every move had already been predicted. The drones disabled communications and weapons systems with minimal effort. Ships drifted helplessly, their crews panicking. Sir, what do we do? Lieutenant Khazar asked, fear finally breaking through the discipline of his species. Tharok could only shake his head. I do not know. This is not a war we can fight. In the darkness of space, the human warship moved silently, watching the alien fleet flounder. It had no need for brute force yet. Patience was enough. They had engineered every signal, every false reading, every moment of confusion, and it had worked perfectly. Captain, Lieutenant Harris said, watching the alien ships drift helplessly. They're frozen. Completely paralyzed, Ilara nodded. Good. Let's make sure they learn a lesson they'll never forget. The alien commander, Tharok, attempted a final desperate measure. He activated the fleet's emergency warp systems, hoping to escape the human ship's unseen traps. But the human drones moved faster. They sabotaged the ship's engines and power conduits. One by one, the alien vessels fell silent, powerless in the void. Tharok could do nothing but watch. The humans had predicted everything. Every possible counter, every maneuver, already neutralized before he could react. Fear had never felt so sharp. Helplessness had never been so complete. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the human warship disengaged. It moved away silently, leaving the alien fleet stranded and humiliated. The Zarathan were forced to confront a truth they had long ignored. Humans were not just another species. They were unpredictable, cunning, and far more dangerous than their size or number suggested. As the human ship disappeared into the void, Captain Alara allowed herself a small smile. Part 1 is done, she said quietly. They scanned us, and now they regret it. Her crew looked at her in awe. They knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had shown its strength once again, silently, efficiently, without unnecessary destruction. And somewhere in the galaxy, countless eyes would now remember. Never underestimate humans. The stars stretched on endlessly. The human warship glided forward, a shadow among shadows, ready for the next challenge the galaxy might throw at it. The Zarathan fleet drifted in silence. Ships floated like broken bones in the blackness of space. Engines were dead. Weapons were disabled. Communications were gone. And in the midst of it all, Commander Tharok could feel a creeping, heavy dread settle in his mind. He had faced countless threats before. Rogue asteroids, collapsing suns, pirate fleets, but nothing had ever broken his command so completely. Every action he took, every command he issued had been anticipated. The humans had been everywhere, seen everything, and stopped him before he even knew what was happening. Sir, a trembling lieutenant spoke, barely above a whisper. What are they? How can a single warship do this? Tharok clicked his mandibles sharply. They are something beyond what we understood. A human warship is not just a ship, it is a weapon, a mind, a trap. Inside the human ship, Captain Alara Vance monitored the Zarathan fleet with quiet efficiency. The aliens were scared, disoriented, and desperate. Perfect. She had no intention of destroying them completely, at least not yet. Humans did not waste power on total annihilation unless necessary. They preferred to teach lessons. Captain, Lieutenant Harris said, frowning at the display. They're trying to regroup. Some of their smaller ships are attempting manual maneuvers. Alara's lips curved in a faint smile. Let them try. Every move they make, every desperate action, tells us exactly what they think we can do. That is knowledge. And knowledge is power. The humans began to deploy small, precise drones, each one programmed for a single task. One group severed power conduits in the alien ships. Another group jammed communications between vessels. Yet another group subtly interfered with the fleet's navigation systems, causing ships to drift off course. The Zarathan tried to fire back, but their weapons misfired or fizzled. Systems they had relied on for decades simply did not work. Energy diverted, controls reversed, torpedoes rerouted into empty space. It was as if the human warship were alive and deciding what to allow and what to block. "Sir," Lieutenant Kazar cried. They are controlling us." Somehow, Tharok felt a pang of panic he had never known. His entire fleet, thousands of ships, was paralyzed by a single human warship. Every theory, every calculation had failed. Humans had broken the rules of war, rewritten the possibilities of battle, and shown a terrifying efficiency that made the Zarathin feel small, weak, and unprepared. Alara leaned back in her chair. "This is why no one should underestimate humanity," she said. "Not our size, not our numbers, not our technology. We do what others cannot." In one swift, silent movement, the human ship disabled the Zarathin flagship's engines. Tharok watched helplessly as his vessel drifted toward the nearest star, unable to stop. Crew members screamed, claws and mandibles clicking frantically. Panic had taken over completely. "We cannot fight," Tharok said to no one in particular. We are trapped." "Correct," Ilara said calmly, her eyes scanning the fleet. "And now, we show them mercy." Unlike what the aliens expected, the humans did not destroy the fleet. Instead, they carefully neutralized each vessel, leaving the ships drifting but intact. The humans' goal was not slaughter. It was to teach a lesson. Never scan a human warship without understanding the cost. The alien crews attempted to communicate with one another, but the human drones had disrupted their system so thoroughly that no messages passed. Ships were isolated. Command structures collapsed. Every moment of confusion deepened the fear. Tharok finally understood. Humans did not rely on overwhelming numbers. They did not rely on raw firepower. Humans relied on strategy, foresight, and adaptability. A single human warship was enough to destroy the will of an entire fleet. Inside the human ship, Captain Alara addressed her crew. "Remember this moment," she said. "They scanned us. They assumed we were simple. They assumed fear would control us. And they learned. It does not." Her crew nodded silently. They had seen this before. Every engagement, every mission, every encounter reinforced the same truth. Humans were unpredictable, intelligent and dangerous beyond imagination. The Zarathin flagship, now adrift, tried one last desperate action. Tharok activated an old forbidden weapon, an experimental energy pulse designed to disrupt enemy systems. He hoped it could somehow reach the human warship. Alara's ship barely flinched. The pulse dispersed harmlessly into space. The humans had already accounted for it. "Next time," Alara whispered, "they might try something different. But we are ready." The alien fleets were a mess of stranded ships. Engines failed. Weapons failed. Communication failed. Pride, the core of Zarathin civilization, had been shattered. Every officer, every pilot, every crew member understood one painful truth. Humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were a force no one could fully anticipate or contain. As the human ship moved silently away, the Zarathin fleet was forced to reassess their place in the galaxy. Tharok finally spoke, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and respect. "Report this to the Council," he said. "Tell them, humanity is not to be underestimated. Not again." Inside the human ship, Ilara watched the stars pass by. The fleet had vanished from their sensors. They had left no trace except the lesson burned into the minds of the aliens. "Part 2 is complete," she said quietly. "They will remember this for generations. And when they speak of humans, they will do so with caution and respect." Lieutenant Harris asked, "Captain, do you think they will try again?" Ilara's eyes gleamed. "Perhaps. But next time, we'll be ready, always ready." The human warship disappeared into the black void, a silent guardian of its species. The galaxy would never know exactly what they had seen. But the Zarathin and all who heard the tale would tremble at the memory of a single human ship that had paralyzed an entire fleet. Somewhere, deep in the uncharted reaches of space, other alien civilizations would hear whispers. Stories would spread of humans, small in numbers, simple in appearance but cunning, strategic, and terrifyingly effective. And Captain Alara Vance and her crew knew the truth. Humanity was just beginning to show the galaxy what it could do. The stars stretched on endlessly, silent, empty. But for those who dared scan a human warship, The memory of fear would last longer than any weapon could fire.